Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
Welcome to the show. It is Movie Geeks United. We have actress Anne Heche a little bit later on the show tonight. She has a new film called That's What She Said. And maybe we can work that title in throughout the show. She'll come on to talk about that film. Also on the show tonight, Sean Stone. He has written and directed and stars in a new film called Greystone Park. He is, of course, the son of Oliver Stone, and this is his feature film debut. We'll talk to him in a little bit. Monday night screening of Lincoln at the New York Film Festival. It was not a completely finished print, but I can't imagine much needs to be done with it, and the people that saw it said they couldn't figure out quite what else could be done with it either. But so the reaction to Lincoln, this is a great curiosity, especially its role in award season. And it's not any easier to predict, given the reaction, because it's been kind of divided, the reaction to it, but I mean more on the positive side.
Right. When I was watching the trailer and, you know, trying to explain to my mom that I do think it was written, and the screenwriter, Tony Kushner, did reconfirm this, it has a lot of parallels to today. And I don't think you make a movie like this unless you're trying to say something about today. And Kushner did say he was trying to make parallels with today, because there's some lines just in the trailer that you'd be like, yeah, this is definitely about our partisan nation. But Spielberg has been is playing that down, and I can understand that to an extent. But I don't know, between this and War Horse, he's made, at least the trailers are so emotionally involving. This looks like another, I think he's hit a home run here, at least from the trailer. And I know it's premature to say that, but
were you more hyped about it after the new trailer came out after the first debate?
That's very funny.
No, I mean that was timed, and which is odd for me, because Spielberg said intentionally he wanted to avoid the election, playing this into the election, and yet they premiere a brand new trailer during the first debate on Fox News. I was watching Fox News in there.
Yeah, I see that, and you're right. You know, it's being released a week after a couple of days after the election. But it's unavoidable. Like, you just can't not, when you see the movie, not think about today. So, I don't know.
Well, look, I don't blame them. I mean, because first of all, I mean, they have a captive audience of people that are generally interested in politics.
You had 70 million people.
Yeah.
70 million people watching it. That, and, you know, they don't always, it's like this year the debates are like top in center, front and center. So, I would advertise everything during the debate. Silent Hill 3D. I do that too.
But the trailer, I mean, it's very rah-rah. It's it includes quotes from people like Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy, and then these men were ahead of their time and stood up to power and blah blah blah, and then to introduce the notion of Lincoln. Here's the different reactions coming out of the screening. Lincoln, I don't know what publication this guy's from. Lincoln is way too dull to win big prize. Trio of dynamite performances, but the film has no prayer for Oscar unless all else fails. This is Spielberg's smallest film since Always. So
I've heard that before about,
that confirms what that one guy said walking out of the Jersey screening that everyone discredited.
Right.
Best when portraying a man isolated by incalculable burden. A writer named Logan Hill says Spielberg's Lincoln was rock-solid monument to Abe, a bounce back from War Horse. Oscar nominations galore, Tommy Lee Jones for the win, which is a big theme coming out of the screening. No matter what people thought of it, they said Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis is great, but Tommy Lee Jones kind of really shines in it.
Well, that's good, because it's always, I mean, he's a fascinating actor, so I'm glad to hear that.
So this, I mean, it runs the gamut from, this is one of Spielberg's best films, one of his 5 best films, to this is the best film ever made for A&E Network.
Right.
That's essentially how it falls.
It's got to be better than A Conspirator. I mean...
Yeah. A lot of people shocked by how funny it is. There's a lot of comedy in the film.
Okay.
It's so interesting. Today I went to Jeffrey Wells' site.
Uh-huh.
Oh God! What happened at Jeffrey Wells' site? I mean,
well, that Jeffrey Wells has been anti-Lincoln since about 6 months ago. Way before Lincoln actually arrived as an actual film, he's been totally anti-Lincoln because I suspect that he's one of those people that is totally anti-Spielberg.
He is.
He's just if Spielberg's connected with the thing, he's just completely off of it, and he's out there gunning for it.
Let me ask a question: has he always been anti-Spielberg, or is this recent?
No, I mean he goes back to Jaws. I mean Jaws came out on Blu-ray, and he was kind of lukewarm on it. Yeah, he was like, "It's fine."
How can you be lukewarm about Jaws? I mean.
That's
even
so
my
true,
mom,
Jerry.
even my mom, who I didn't know she was because she used to say, okay, if Spielberg made nothing else except E.T. and Schindler's List, that would be awesome. But then she said last week, all of a sudden we got Jaws into that. Jaws and E.T. For some reason, Schindler's List has fallen off the pedestal or something. She threw Schindler's List under the bus, essentially. But no, she said Jaws. She said Jaws because Jaws is the kind of movie that whenever it comes on, I'll watch it.
You can't stop watching it.
Yeah, because
you cannot stop watching it.
What's great about Jaws is really not so... When you're a little kid, it's like, the shark and everything. No, as you get older, the great thing about Jaws is the human element is so compelling. I mean, the scene when he talks about the Indianapolis is priceless.
Yes, it is. I mean, we all know what's great about Jaws.
Yeah, but what can he have a problem with? What is it on the Blu-ray? What, the color situation's off or something?
No, I just think that there's a certain contingent out there, and I'm not just talking about Jeffrey Wells now. I'm just talking about just general. I'm not just talking about bloggers. I'm not talking about critics. I'm talking about just the public. In general.
There is some truth in what you say. There is a lot of... We talked about this, too.
There's a contingent out there that just despises Spielberg for just having the name Spielberg. It's so crazily different from anything. Look, okay, so there's only 2 filmmakers out there that you can name, and I'm talking about in all of American history, American filmmaking history, that connote
our household names.
That are household names for directing movies, and that is Hitchcock and Spielberg.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And Hitchcock never had any kind of thing that Spielberg has connected to his movies. Spielberg had found his fame in the 70s and it was a cynical time, and the cynical times marched on. He has always fought against those cynical times, and has actually often tried to recall the 60s and the 50s and the 40s and even the 30s with Frank Capra. They're sort of rah-rah America sort of.
Kind of, but they have a dark side to them too.
Yeah, but he's had to sort of adopt that. That's something that he's had to sort of adopt.
I mean, he has done it, like with Munich and AI to an extent.
Yeah, I definitely think in later years he has. But
yeah.
I mean that is true. He ran against the grain of cynicism that ran through the great movies of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's primarily Jeffrey Wells' problem with him. Because if you read anything Jeffrey Wells writes, he comes off as a angry old curmudgeon, you know? Like he just walks around all the time going, bleh, bleh, you know? Like, so he's not going to respond to Spielberg. He's not going to respond to that sticky, saccharine, extremely polished, everybody look up at the sunset kind of Spielberg. Yeah.
He feels like a lot of the public, not just film writers, experts, whatever. He responds to what some segment of the public feels is embarrassing to like about Spielberg. But why be embarrassed when it works? If it works, I mean, if it doesn't work, like in Hook or something like that,
Hook
then
is the one.
Respond correctly. But if it does work in something like Munich or something like Close Encounters or Jaws, and then Jaws is an interesting film out of Spielberg's body of work.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, Jaws seems like the movie that's impossible not to like. It's like, I don't care that you don't like saccharine, sentiment or whatever. Jaws to me seems like the movie that's just absolutely about entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about entertainment because it's truthful, and it's about entertainment also because it's exciting and extremely well made. Let me tell you something. When I was working for TNT, Turner Network Television, back in the 90s, I used to go to the programmers and say, why is it that you show Jaws so much on not only TNT but on TBS? And that my boss, she said, because it works.
Mm-hmm.
She said, because it always gets ratings. Because people always tune in, and it's a movie that they cannot get away from. They cannot, it's so well made that even through the commercials and all that stuff, they cannot break away from. They just love it so much.
Right.
And she said no other Spielberg movie works as well as Jaws does on television.
There's also a resistance to Spielberg in some circles because people see him as overly manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
But to deny that aspect of filmmaking is to deny what film is. Every decision made in film is manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
A single cut is manipulative.
I love that statement, Jamie. I love that statement. It's so true.
Here's another actor in Lincoln, to get back to Lincoln, that they say is really good. They say James Spader is really good in it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's I've heard that. I read that too.
Return of Spader.
But I don't know how big his role is. I get the sense that his role is sort of small, but it's memorable.
Actually, Lincoln opens limited November 9th, and then it releases wide the next week. Hitchcock opens limited on the 23rd, and they haven't announced when it opens wider.
Right.
I'm sure by Christmas it'll be all over the place, I would hope. But they came out with their trailer for that today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, today? Okay, I have not seen that trailer yet. Okay.
I'm excited. It looks slightly camp.
Mm-hmm.
And people that worried that is there a movie in here because Psycho isn't known to be an incredibly challenging Apocalypse Now level production. So what is the movie in this?
Mm-hmm.
The movie is essentially, as it seems to be from the trailer based on the book, that he was feeling a bit bored. He wanted to challenge himself. He wanted to ruffle some feathers, and so he found this property that was extremely controversial in the Psycho novel. everybody said, don't do it, don't do it. The studio refused to support him, so he financed it himself. As everyone knows, he brought in his TV crew to keep costs low, $800,000 or something. Mm-hmm. And he shot this movie that no one believed in, and then it became a big sensation. Now, wrapped up in that general plot line, it seems apparent from the trailer that it's really about how his wife was a major co-collaborator and someone that he depended upon immensely. And then you have all these delicious, actors playing real-life counterparts in this iconic movie. You see a glimpse of the shower scene, and I think that it's definitely Oscar bait in terms of performance from top to bottom. And the most praise that has come out of it is for Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right.
People in the production said the shocking performance in this is Scarlett Johansson, but she's fantastic as Janet Leigh. Oh.
Wow, that's good. No, because it's always good when she's in something good. So that's really encouraging.
What's striking to me in the trailer, watching Hopkins in the trailer, is that he doesn't necessarily try to mimic the voice of Hitchcock. It seems like it's going to be another one of those where you're just going to kind of ease into his performance until you're totally accepting of it.
Like Nixon.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of us harbor dark recesses of violence and horror. I'm just a man hiding in the corner with a camera, watching.
Mr. Hitchcock, you're the most famous director in the history of the medium, but you're 60 years old.
Shouldn't you just quit while you're ahead? This is murder. I'm getting blisters just watching you.
He's going out of his mind looking for his next project.
I need something fresh, something different.
It was the knife that, a moment later, cut off her scream and her head. Charming. Doris Day should do it as a musical.
Good afternoon. This book, Psycho, was fiendishly entertaining.
Is this really going to be your next picture?
Yes, madam. By the way, try the finger sandwiches. They're real fingers.
No one respects the name Hitchcock more than Paramount. But even a talented man sometimes backs the wrong horse.
This is Mr. Hitchcock's next film.
Fine. If you can get the money.
Who do I make it out to?
Well, are we going to have to sell the whole house or just the pool?
You are intrigued, aren't you? Killing off your leading lady halfway through the movie.
How are you going to shoot this shower scene? It's only that, well, from here up, I'm not exactly boyish. You shouldn't wait till halfway through. Kill her off after 30 minutes.
Well.
After letting him do something so tasteless.
Don't upset yourself, darling. It's only a bloody movie.
More anger! More!
You're married to a man obsessed by murder.
This will not be released in this country. Show me some damn footage now!
I'm under extraordinary pressures on this picture, and the least you can do is give me your full support.
We've mortgaged our house! I am your wife. I celebrate with you when the reviews are good. I cry for you when they are bad. And I put up with those people who look through me as if I were invisible, because all they can see is the great and glorious genius Alfred Hitchcock.
I promised Mother I wouldn't tell.
Oh, you imp, you've got nudity in there.
Well, her breasts were rather large. It was a challenge not to show them.
Now, is there somebody playing Saul Bass in the movie? For me, that would be might be the most dramatic thing that happens during Psycho, because there's such a there's a historical mystery there. Who actually directed the or constructed the famous shower scene? And Saul Bass, I could be wrong here, but Saul Bass says that he did it. You know.
Well, and he's the only one who says he did it, though. Mm-hmm. Like the people that were present then don't say he did it.
Yeah.
Actress Anne Heche is with us tonight.
I love her.
You do love her?
I love her. I do.
What do you love her?
Everything from Walking and Talking to Donnie Brasco. I mean, I just adore her.
Yeah, she's done some great films, and we just got done talking about Psycho. It's like a perfect segue.
Oh yes,
the shot-for-shot remake of Psycho. She played Janet Leigh's role in that. It's interesting. She has a new movie. This is kind of it's new to films, and I think it was brought on by Bridesmaids, where female buddy films can be as raunchy as the male counterpart. It's kind of like a new phenomenon, I think, brought on by the success of that film. But this one is a very funny film. It's called That's What She Said. It opens up October 19th in theaters in Los Angeles, actually, and it's available on video on demand on the same day. It's written by Kelly Overby, who's been on our show before years ago
right.
for our J.T. Walsh tribute, and it's directed by Carrie Preston, who's probably best known for her performance in True Blood. It premiered earlier this year at the Sundance Film Festival to great acclaim. And in this conversation, Anne tells us all about what it was like working on the film, especially an independent film of this size with a mostly female cast. And here she is. Here's Anne Heche. It had to have been incredibly liberating for you to play this kind of character.
It was. It started off as being a mountain that I needed to climb that I was kind of afraid of because, as soon as you read somebody who, is brushing their teeth and smoking a cigarette at the same time, you think that's really funny, and then you really start working on what kind of self-destructive, abusive and addictive behavior that is, and you're like, oh, my God, she is a world of mess. How do I go into that kind of dark water and then come out with it being funny? So it was. Well, I mean, it was a blast, but it was also nasty. It's nasty. She's nasty. She's not a hopeful, loving person, which those are kind of maybe easier for me to access. Just in terms of, I don't think anybody would accuse me of never being positive, and I really wanted to strip her of any of that veneer that made her appealing, really.
Do you find that the most worthwhile experiences for you in terms of performance are the experiences where there is a certain fear factor involved?
Well, don't get me wrong, there's always some amount of fear involved. No matter what it is.
Yeah.
Because you're, first of all, you're accepting and embracing a woman in the world who exists somewhere. Mm-hmm. Or, at least somewhere enough that you're going to portray her. So you want to be truthful. But on the other hand, you're offering something that you don't want to fail anybody.
Right.
Your audience, forget your co-stars, your director, the writer who wrote the story, and then it just keeps going out from there, all the people you don't want to let down.
In the process of doing it, for instance, like with this particular film, is there a moment when you feel like you found it, that you have your legs and you reach kind of a comfort zone with it?
Oh, the second I had rehearsed, there were a lot of words, and we didn't have any time to waste film or money to waste film, and we kind of needed it to be like a play where everything was kind of, I think my goal was to have the entire script memorized before I stepped on the plane to go to New York, which is a lot of words, but how, and then the play on the set be what, keeps bringing it to life, but I did a lot of rehearsal with my husband in terms of finding how far down I could go, and he just kept saying further, further, and I would get so mad, like further, take it down, take it down, take it down, really, really, I remember him saying to me one day, like, really, she doesn't care what other people think. Mm-hmm. And to remove all that from even how you speak or walk or talk, like any of it was was really kind of great. So the first day I thought I might be able to do it was the day that he was like, okay, I think you got there. And it was really raw. So playing in that world, that once I knew how dark it could go, then I started to find the humor. And when I started to find the humor, then I knew that I could start to play.
Well, was that the key for you with this character, that she honestly didn't care what people thought of her? Because I'm thinking that when you're preparing a role, I mean, the instinct must be to kind of pile on as much information as you can to construct the character, but I think it must be important to kind of simplify it in the end.
There were a lot of elements that I mean, that was one of them, in terms of a quality of how you deliver things, and what that feels like to not care is really, self-loathing, of course. Mm-hmm. So, it's that she's also an addict. There are all these things that had to be true in order for her behavior to not make people wince, but make people laugh. Mm-hmm. So, and it just, the uglier she got, the funnier she got too. So. Mm-hmm. And then you can't shy away from it. Once you have that kind of curmudgeon born, she's fun,
She is, yeah. And as kind of horrific as some of the behavior is, there's always an element that you relate to as a viewer. And I think
Dee Dee is like every girl's worst day and then worse, and then she never comes out of it. So I think that's why girls think it's funny.
Yeah.
Because it's all kind of how we would like to behave sometimes, but we don't. And Dee Dee does it. And that's why I think girls giggle. They really like to act like her sometimes. But most of us too proper, too kind, and too good.
Let me see if I got this straight. You meet some random guy at a wine tasting, get trashed, take him home with you, your place, right?
My apartment was closer.
Of course. He sweet talks your ass into bed after 2.5 years of celibacy. You don't know what he does for a living. Do you know his name?
Of course I know his name.
Tom. And you have a phone number. Cell phone? Landline? Okay.
I really wish that you would just take the bar again.
Wow. You have a voicemail number. And you know his name is Tom.
You sleep with strangers all the time.
And I don't care if I ever see them again. Baby, he's been bulldozed.
What are you talking about?
He's married.
He's not married.
How do you know?
Because he told me he wasn't.
Oh, okay.
See, this is exactly why I didn't want to tell you about it. This is exactly why.
Baby, you're going to get hurt.
No, I'm not. He's the first guy that I've liked in I don't know how long, and I want to enjoy it. Just because you're bitter doesn't mean that I have to be.
I'm just trying to protect you.
I can take care of myself.
Then maybe you should stop scratching your crotch and get some medicine for that yeast infection.
Well, this is actually, Kelly Overby, she adapted it from her play.
Yes.
And the play was called Girl Talk. In your experience, is this movie true to the way that girls do talk?
Oh my gosh! I mean, girls are as complicated as men in how they speak. I mean, I don't know if you would walk into a Beverly Hills hair salon and hear women talking like this. So they might say, if I said, "Yeah, this is how girls talk," I might really offend some people if I said that. But I certainly think this was definitely a study of Kelly's Kelly and Kelly in New York and a world of some very lonely girls battling New York City, and that's how they talk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not only written by an actor, but it's also directed by an actor. There has to be some kind of advantage to you in that dynamic as a performer.
Well, I mean, of course, but there's more than anything, there's so much appreciation. I mean, Kelly, it's amazing. She wrote, I mean, actresses don't often get to say this many words on camera, let alone 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's Kelly's appreciation and for women and her friends that gave birth to this idea.
Well, there are kind of long stretches of dialogue in the movie, and I was wondering how it was shot. I mean, because when you think of movie acting, it's all kind of stops and starts. Were you able to kind of build up a rhythm and play the scenes out?
Yes, very much so. In fact, we rehearsed it like a play, which you don't ever get to do, really. We had a couple of days just working out all of the blocking, also because we didn't have the time or the money to do it otherwise, but there were some 10-page scenes, and Carrie very specifically had we rehearsed them as a whole so we knew the entire way that it would go, blocked it in a rehearsal hall, and so that when we got to the set, we weren't wasting any time figuring that out. We didn't have that kind of time. Mm-hmm. So, the first scene, I think, is a 12-page scene or something like that, and we had 4 days or 3 days to shoot it, so we, knew where everything was going and then would get to the set and run. We ran as much as we could of the scene all the way through each time we were in a different location. And the locations were kind of built into 10 to 12-page scenes, each one of them. So we would take a run at that scene. They weren't necessarily in chronological order, but we did get to do a full-on run of it. And then we would start breaking it into pieces.
Well, when you're, and that's extremely rare, I would imagine.
Yes, totally rare. Yeah. Very rare.
But when you're working on a strict kind of shooting schedule for an independent film of this nature, I mean, do you feel satisfied after a day's work, or do you feel like there's always you wish you had more time to explore more possibilities?
Oh, it was like a celebration every day that we got finished what we were supposed to do. Mm-hmm. I think it was like an engine running all day long. Between Carrie and me, I think we knew what we would have to accomplish in each day and how hard that was going to be. So it was like breathing a sigh of relief after each day when we were like, okay, we got it, because it was an incredible thing to accomplish. Yeah. And then, of course, we were like, oh, my God, what about tomorrow? Oh, my goodness. And it was usually at about 4 o'clock in the morning when we were wrapping, so it was like, oh, my goodness sakes. And how do you come down from the day to be able to rest to actually get enough energy? I don't know if any of us slept for a month, including my husband. It was a whirlwind of energy, but yes, we celebrated. That's one thing Carrie and I really loved to do, and are similar in that when we accomplished something, we felt great about it. We knew what we were tackling, and so every time that day would, we got it. It was like such a God. Okay, great, we did it. We did it because it was such a hard thing to do.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I want to ask one question, kind of about the nature of a film set. Because from hearing you just describe this experience of shooting this film, I mean, I would imagine you guys were a very close-knit group during this process, and it worked very intensely to get this project done. Is it strange to kind of leave after that process is over? You work so intensely for such a short burst of time, and then the experience is over and you go your separate ways.
Well, we're all friends, so it's not a departure like, okay, I'm never going to see you again. And I just think I probably smelled so bad from cigarette smoke and booze from the floor of the bar, and the stink of a East Side bar filled with 50 people jam-packed in there for 10 days, that I think we all wanted to get away from each other for just about a minute. And we, of course, have all stayed and are very good friends. I'm teasing, but that was no. I think we all needed a vacation after that. It was that last scene that ends in the bar was a very intense experience that I know Marcia and I at least were bruised from head to toe. But that was a stinky bar. We were all like, okay, see you later. We're going to go take a shower.
Whoa. I'm sorry.
What the hell?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
You tongued me.
I'm sorry.
With your tongue. I don't usually drink. Stop drinking.
Okay.
Jesus.
Okay, that was Anne Heche. The movie is called That's What She Said. Opens up in L.A. on October 19th, and it's also available that same day on video on demand services. We're actually, I wanted to let you guys know out there, we're starting to assemble a sequel of our own, a sequel to our Art of Cinematography series, because we did this series early this year, January, and it was a great success, and it actually introduced quite a few people to our show for the first time. And so since it was a great success, and there's so many other talents to talk to and include in this series, I thought, let's do it again. And we've booked our first 2 guests for the series. Stephen Goldblatt. Last year, he shot The Help.
Okay.
He shot Closer for Mike Nichols, Angels in America, The Pelican Brief, The Prince of Tides, Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, The Hunger.
Oh, wow.
The Hunger, that's a big one.
Yeah, Outland, and The Cotton Club.
Oh,
wow.
I love Outland.
Outland's a good one, yeah.
Outland is like one of my favorite movies that I don't actually count as one of my favorite movies, if that makes any kind of sense. It's
yes, it does.
I love it. I love to watch it. It's a great movie.
Yes. I just want to hear the stories of the Cotton Club.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
The
Cotton Club. I mean, the Cotton Club, yes, insanely great.
And the other one that's agreed to participate is Michael Ballhaus.
Well, he's a legend.
Yes. I think he occupies the Robert Richardson spot in this.
Yeah, I would say so. Wow.
Yeah. Work with Fassbender early on. He did he started with Scorsese, I believe, with After Hours. Carried over into The Color of Money and The Last Temptation of Christ and Goodfellas. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
The Age of Innocence, Dracula for Coppola, Quiz Show, Fabulous Baker Boys.
I just watched Quiz Show the other night and was amazed at the cinematography in that movie. The cinematography, the art direction, the costume design in that movie is fantastic.
Gangs of New York. Broadcast News.
Wow.
I know.
what
Working
a
Girl.
career.
Postcards from the Edge. Here's a little curiosity in the midst of this. Well, he did Death of a Salesman, the TV movie with Dustin Hoffman.
Yes.
And then After Hours.
Yes.
After Hours, he shot Under the Cherry Moon.
Wow.
In black and white. Is that his only black and white film?
It was shot in color, though.
Oh, okay.
Wow. How much of a waste would it be if I spent the whole conversation talking about Under the Cherry Moon? I have this great legend on the show, and tell me about the Prince movie. That would be terrible.
Where was your passport issued?
Vancouver.
Where were you born?
Toronto.
Toronto. Canadians don't pronounce the T.
Some Comite guard is actually going to know that.
If you're detained for questioning, they will bring in someone who knows that. Yes. Mary, who are the last 3 prime ministers of Canada?
Trudeau, Pearson, and Diefenbaker.
What's your father's name?
Howard.
What's his occupation?
Fisherman.
Where were you born?
Halifax, Nova Scotia.
What's your date of birth?
February 21st, 1952.
Good. What's your job on the movie?
Producer.
Associate producer. What was the last movie you produced?
High and Dry.
Who paid for that?
CFTC.
What's your middle name? What's your middle name? What's your middle name?
Leon?
Shoot him. He's an American spy. Look, they're going to try to break you, okay? By trying to get you agitated. You have to know your resume back to front.
You really believe your little story is going to make a difference when there's a gun to our heads?
I think my story is the only thing between you and a gun to your head.
I saw Argo, and I can definitely say this is one of the best movies of the year. I mean, it's top 3 for me at this point.
Right, okay.
And Affleck is incredible. I mean, because this is a very tricky piece of material, because there's a kind of a ridiculous too ridiculous to be true element of it, but it is true that they faked this cheesy science fiction movie so they could go into Iran and rescue 6 American hostages. And this assignment was only declassified during the Clinton administration. So it's been out there maybe like 20 years now. But it's an amazing story. And I think that the standout in terms of performance is actually Alan Arkin. Arkin is the comic kind of gold in the movie. He has the best lines. Mm-hmm. But the movie's so masterful at blending kind of the comedic with the really intense thriller aspect of it. And it gets very intense. I mean, it keeps building and building and building in its finale.
Okay, cool.
It's just so expertly done, the cinematography and the score and the period, like a great replication of the late 70s.
I mean, to me, when I look at the photos from Argo and the trailer from Argo, I'm particularly amazed by the costume design because they really got the costumes just right. You know, I'm amazed by just the story in itself, but the costumes look incredibly realistic. You know, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, because they're not kitschy. You know, they're not like. They're not you can do that and it can almost come across as a parody if you take it too far. But these are functional clothes. These are what people would really wear in these kinds of environments. But the period detail in terms of what's on the television and the set dressings and all of that kind of stuff is pretty spectacular. It really sets you off in that particular time frame. Mm-hmm. If there's a problem with the movie, I think it's Ben Affleck's performance. And this is interesting because this is the same criticism that plagues Daniel Day-Lewis, because people that have a problem with his thin, higher-pitched voice in Lincoln, they have a problem because it doesn't fit dramatically what they think Lincoln should be. It doesn't contain the kind of gravitas that they think that character should have, but it is historically authentic. Mm-hmm. Now, Ben Affleck's playing a real-life CIA operative who he met, who's still alive, and spent time with him, and said that this is a very tight-lipped, he doesn't show his emotions, non-demonstrative. So he's playing it as the actual guy. But at times, I felt like it lacked a certain sense of emotional urgency that I think would have deepened my investment in that character. And certain moments of that film. It's like a tricky line. Like how far you take the reality.
It brings up an interesting question. How much should you cleave to the actual person, and how much should you actually invest the performance with something that you think the audience expects?
Yeah.
And
something that might actually improve the emotional content of the film.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're waiting. Right. Even there's a moment after all the turmoil of the main plot and the main suspense of the movie. There's a moment that he has that I think should have been more emotionally played. As it is, it's played just as stoically as every other scene he's in the movie. I mean, there's like this. You can tell there's this at times this inner thing boiling inside of him, like this agitation at how things are going and this responsibility that he feels. You do feel like he's a noble guy,
right?
But it doesn't play as emotionally at times. But believe me, I mean, his performance is better than serviceable. I mean, he's a strong presence in the movie. And as a director, it's just top-notch work.
Right. Okay.
And so it's just a little complaint. But I do think that we're looking at best director, best picture, best supporting actor, possibly best costume design, best score, best cinematography, best editing. I think that it's up for grabs in all of those categories.
Who's the cinematographer?
And more than anything, and best adapted screenplay. I think it's adapted.
Okay.
I think it's based on a book or an article at least. I think it's adapted. Yeah. I wanted to read an email. This came to us actually last month, and from one of our listeners. I wanted to read you what he has to say. This is from Dallas Norvell. Hope he doesn't mind me giving out his full name. I'll give his address a little bit later on the show. He wrote in and he said some interesting things. He said, I just want to tell you that I've become an absolutely rabid fan of your show. In 6 months, I've gone from not knowing who you were to listening to 3 shows a day.
Wow.
7
Thank
months
you.
ago, yeah, exactly. 7 months ago, I had never listened to a podcast in my life, but I was recovering from a shattered toe. I needed to start running again. That's the demographic we should promote this show to, like people that have suffered orthopedic injuries.
Who are bedridden.
No,
That's
I
right.
can. I can
Shut-ins.
relate.
We need to promote it to shut-ins, yeah. Also, I wanted to retrain my cinematography skills, so I started searching for conversations with cinematographers, and there you go. That's like I was just saying. He said, I found your series, and I was blown away. So at first, I was only really interested in hearing the interviews and avoiding you guys debating the films. And I think I was unfortunate to hear some frustrated comments about another David Lynch rejection to participate on the show. And I'm thinking to myself, who the fuck do these guys think they are? What makes them think they warrant an interview with David Lynch? And then he says, I was wrong. And over time, I just started to listen to other shows that had nothing to do with cinematography, and I started to realize these guys have amazing taste in film. He's listening to the Kubrick series a second time and taking notes. He's beginning the Lynch series. He says, I think Movie Geeks should be required listening to film students.
Thank you.
And he says it's like film crack.
Yes, it is.
Boosting this is just really making me feel good. Really, thank you.
We have a purpose, dude. Nice. Look at that.
No, it's nice. It's obvious. Like when I first called into this show a long time ago, 3 years ago or whatever it was, I just said, "Oh my God, you guys are doing such incredible work. I have to call in and then, it's just amazing that I'm even part of it right now. So, but it's great,
Okay, Django Unchained. They came out with a new trailer. I was wondering what that was because earlier today they teased it. Mm-hmm. They said an important thing coming up tonight with Django Unchained. So a new trailer. I'm excited about it to begin with, but I'm a lot more stoked by the second trailer too. It's a good trailer.
Yeah, it's a great trailer. I mean, you get to the thing. We actually get to hear some Morricone in it, and the actual original Django theme song at the end there. But it's just we get to see Jonah Hill now. He's featured in the trailer. We get more about the characters and everything, and I think he's shown just enough to really, to say I have to go see this. Like he did with the Inglourious Bastard trailers. He's just given away just enough, but don't even try to figure out the film. I thought I had Inglourious Basterds figured out, and it threw me for not at all what I thought, which is good. And I'm just not even going to expect anything. Just try to walk in with a blank slate if that's possible. But it seems to capture two of the genres that he loves best. The spaghetti western and the black exploitation film are somehow merged into one, like a Cuisinart, if you will. He's just thrown them both in there, and it just looks incredible.
I agree. And it looks beautiful. It looks good. That movie.
I was just going to say, just recently, I just posted I contribute to another website called Wonders in the Dark, which is a great website. They're big into European films and Asian films in particular. And the people who run the people who run the site are Sam Giuliano and most primarily Alan Fish. And Alan Fish is in Britain. and Sam is in New York City. And these guys run an incredible website. So
did they intentionally name it after an Annabella Sciorra film?
I have no idea where the title Wonders in the Dark came from.
Isn't that what it is? Whispers in the Dark?
No, Wonders in the Dark. It's a great
Wonders
site.
in the Dark.
Wonders in the Dark. Okay.
Yeah, they have Blazing Saddles and Animal House. I see.
I've made some of those myself.
So I did the one of the two. We're currently counting down our 100 favorite comedies, and I've done 2 articles so far for this website. One for Alexander Payne's Election, which appeared in about in the 80s or the 90s, and then currently today posted the newest entry about at number 53 or so for Blazing Saddles. And I bring this up only because Blazing Saddles, to me, when I was writing the article for Blazing Saddles, I was realizing that Cleavon Little is really the first black lead in a Western.
True.
And I almost went and said, well, it's going to change pretty soon with Jamie Foxx for Django Unchained, but I decided not to do that. I decided not to do that for the article. But I said he's nearly the only black lead for a Western. Knowing that Django Unchained is coming up. I just want to say something else about Wonders in the Dark. I've been contributing to Wonders in the Dark for the past I don't know, about 5 months now. They're doing an incredible series that is really will be going on for another year now, where we're trying to figure out what are truly the best movies of every single year. And Alan Fish does such an amazing job of listing all of the movies from every single country. I mean, and this comes from, he started doing it, I think the first year that they started doing it was like 1918, and we're now up to 1960. And he lists every single picture that could possibly be nominated. But not only that, he does that for all the great actors, lead actresses, supporting actors, supporting actresses. He leaves the directors up to you to figure out because of the picture nominations. But he also puts in there score, cinematography, and short films. So this guy has really got an incredible, seriously encyclopedic knowledge of movies. And every Sunday now, I spend 2 hours trying to figure out what my favorite films are of each single year. And now we're up to 1960. So of course, in 1960, I picked Psycho to win picture, director, actor, supporting actress, screenplay, cinematography, score, art direction, and editing. But it's so fascinating when you go to Wonders in the Dark and see the other people who contribute to this effort, and to see what it's really exciting. It's like every week there's a new Oscar ceremony happening, and Alan Fish is famously like anti-Oscar, because he just says they got it wrong almost exclusively. And you know what? He's pretty much right. I'm a pro-Oscar guy, but he's pretty much right. When you look at everything that came out every single year, they just almost never got it right.
No, it's stunning how much they drop the ball on certain things. You know, I watch it for the pageantry of it and and the suspense of it. I don't necessarily watch it because I agree with their choices. I mean, I rarely. It's rare that I do, actually.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with Greystone Park? It's a real place.
No, I don't know of it. I'm sorry.
It's a psychiatric hospital. It's abandoned now, but everybody says that it's haunted, and there have been sightings and scary stuff that went on in there. Well, Sean Stone and his friend co-writer Alexander Wraith, they came up with an idea to kind of enter the premises and just film what happened. And the result is Greystone Park. The film is available on video-on-demand systems on September 13th, and it's releasing on DVD on the 16th of October. Our home entertainment correspondent, Arenata Diaz, spoke with Sean, and here's what he had to say.
The main building, also known as the Kirkbride Building, was completed in 1876. Until 1943, when the Pentagon was completed, this was the largest structure in the United States under one roof.
What, you never wanted to go to a haunted house before?
I think I've been in one.
Really? Haunted?
You ever seen a shadow, like a shadow man? You ever been attacked by a shadow?
It could have been just a shadow.
Man's body pulling my leg out of the bed.
That sounds like John was getting a little kinky.
You don't believe in ghosts?
Only one way to find out.
No, we shouldn't be here. We're disturbing the dead.
There's something moving. I don't know what the hell that is, though.
I met Alex Wraith and at a dinner, one night in October of 2009, and he was, a friend of my father's, and he was talking about Greystone, and been there before, he'd explored it for about 3 years before I met him, and he'd been there like 10 times. He'd been arrested by cops like 2 or 3 times and had his footage confiscated, but he kept going back. He thought it was a fascinating location. He really believed it was haunted. I was skeptical, kind of like you see in the opening, and then all that set up and the came together, very much as you see in the film, and we broke in the next night, and that was the basis, of the story that we then wrote, was just based on what happened.
Right. Did you have an outline that you thought at least you could adhere to, or did you kind of let it happen as unfold as you were spending the time there?
Right. No, when we first went in, I didn't know we were going to live a movie, in a sense. The first time we broke in, we just went, we went ghost hunting. We broke in to see what we were going to find. We took a couple prosumer cameras, right, and we explored. And then, Alex saw a ghost, and he reacted. He got a little weird and almost possessed, and he kept dragging us deeper inside. And when thankfully we found, when we heard footsteps, we started to feel like there was someone else in the building. We found an escape, and we exited. We got out. But the point is that that was a story that we then wrote into a script, and we then had scenes, and we had an arc. But when we went to shoot the film, we shot real locations, haunted locations. So what would happen is that we'd be in a corridor or in an area. We'd be passing the camera back and forth, and then the actors all of a sudden see a shadow or something grabs them, and they react, they run, and that would then be real. We caught a lot of things that were not scripted in the film, but the overall film, as you follow the scenes and the sequence and logic, that was a script.
If you had a neutral opinion before, or maybe no opinion before, of paranormal or afterlife or so forth, I'm wondering what your opinion is now that you've kind of gone through this experience.
Yeah, no, believe me, I know there's another world out there. There are other dimensions, and I think it's very active. There's all kinds of entities. In the Muslim world, they call it jinns.
One thing early on in the film, you direct your father in a scene, and I'm curious about what it was like to direct your dad, and I assumed he had to take his director's cap off and just kind of take your orders. I'm wondering what that was like.
Yeah, well, because it's documentary style, and we really played ourselves. It was designed to be fluid. I wrote his dialogue based on a story he told me when I was a kid. That Crazy Kate ghost story was his, and so I wrote that based on what his story. And when I gave him the script pages, he's like, Jesus, this is a lot of pages. But when he actually showed up, he's a good storyteller, and so he really improvised based on the dialogue, and he told the story naturally. And I think we shot it all in 3 takes, and it really was, it was like it was a few directions here and there, but essentially it was just letting him, feel comfortable relating his story and just having his presence there. I didn't have to direct too much, and also, with him, he would give me a couple of tips when I was acting, but it was always in a very respectful, like offhand manner, not like a direct. Right. He was enjoying the dinner table, Plus we gave him some pretty looking girls and wine, and so he was happy.
But also, and this is kind of the next evolution for you, because you've directed a couple, I know, making of docs for your dad's DVDs, and this seems to be kind of the next evolution to go into kind of this fictional documentary style, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the shooting the documentary, especially Fight Against Time, which was about my father making Alexander. So he and I worked, very much together. I was documenting him and learning from him as a director. So by shooting that documentary and also putting myself in it, that helped to understand how to do this film.
Have you shown it in festivals or other screenings? And what has the reaction been like with this film?
It's interesting that we haven't gone to any festivals with it. We'll screen it publicly in New York at Times Square on October 16th when the DVD comes out, and one's in LA at the LA Horror Fest right before Halloween, right at the end of the month.
Right.
But the reactions I've seen have only been from critics or from from different countries for the most part, and Amazon and kind of blogs, And so it's interesting because my experience has been that young people tend to enjoy it, teenagers, young 20s, really get into it, and they can also, it's a dark film, so I don't know if it has to do with some people just can't see very well, but maybe the quality of some televisions, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of things you can't really control when it's in the VOD DVD market the way you can control on a cinema screen. We colored it for a theatrical, you present it on your TV and it may not have the same, it may not hold up the same way. But it's a dark film, so young people seem to be able to see better and go with that feel, which is a lot of imagination. You see things, but they're very brief. There's and so people, I think, they kind of go crazy with it. Some people really enjoy it. They think it's spooky. They get, they get the energy, the feeling of the film. And some people just think it's the worst movie ever made, and it doesn't make sense, and they've been driven crazy for the last hour and a half, and they're not happy about that.
Right.
So, it's kind of like when Natural Born Killers came out. I think, I remember there was very similar kind of reaction between those who thought it was just mind-boggling, too fast, maddening, and just not really coherent and cohesive, and then those who really just thought it was fresh and cool.
Are you already working on ideas for your next project? Are you thinking of doing something more straightforward narrative and script-based, or what do you have in mind?
Well, yeah, the next one is going to be a martial arts comedy called Enter the Fist, and it's very much an homage to the 70s, 80s action hero cinema, and you can actually see the auditions are online already. It's very funny. We're getting these guys to audition and getting real characters into movies again. It's like the idea of you don't have that anymore. We have a very, how do you say, aside from the found footage, you don't see movies with people from real people from the street, who are not actors, who are just want to present themselves and show off and prove that they can do it and be in a movie. So we're going to bring that energy to the next one. So it's not conventional. It's not a conventional film. We always try to keep it fresh, but it will be, scripted, yes.
Get out of here! Can you see her?
Okay, that was Sean Stone. His new film is called Greystone Park, available on demand September 13th, on DVD October 16th. And we thank Sean for coming on the show and telling us all about his film.
Edgar?
Hey.
Edgar, what are you doing here?
I know.
What?
I know.
Know what?
You know.
No.
I think I know what you know I know.
Look, I don't know what you think I know, but I don't know it.
Your dog is alive!
That's impossible.
I know it is so impossible, but you did it! You did it! So show me how, or I'll tell everyone. Oh, Mrs. Frankenstein!
Tim Burton has suffered 2 flops in a row with Dark Shadows and Frankenweenie.
Yeah.
Frankenweenie's not doing well.
No, Frankenweenie is a disaster, unfortunately. And it's I actually would say this, it's the best film he's possibly made since Ed Wood.
But do you think that's because it's in black and white?
No, I think it's because it's autobiographical.
No. I no.
I just don't think. I don't. Oh God, here's the thing with when Tim Burton, makes something good, like something like Sweeney Todd or this, it doesn't catch on. Unfortunately, look what's caught on: Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Alice in Wonderland. And Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is actually very good until they get to the Chocolate Factory. Once you get to the Chocolate Factory, that movie falls apart.
That is so true about that movie.
And should have just named the movie Charlie. That would have been great.
Yeah, I mean, no.
When I was watching that movie, Jerry, when I was watching that movie, for the first 40 minutes, I was like, "This is fucking great." And then when it gets to the Oompa Loompas and they start singing, the movie dies.
Oh, they kill the movie. They keep going on and on and on. You're just like, shut up.
It's so true.
But here's
about
the thing.
that.
I said I thought Dark Shadows would be good. Whoever, and I said this a million times, whoever put that trailer together deserves an Oscar. Because that trailer for Dark Shadows, I mean, talk about selling the movie. Movie has none of the energy that trailer has for 2 minutes. Nothing quite like that. But Frankenweenie, on the other hand, is actually very good. Classic Tim Burton. It's obviously autobiographical. And it's just really heartfelt, but it's also incredibly well done. I mean, it's really well done. And he loves the old horror, the Universal horror movies, and also like Godzilla movies and that sort of thing. And it's all in there, and it all works. It comes together.
I'm excited to see it, Frankenweenie, because to me, just looking at the trailer, it just seems to recall another early Tim Burton film, the film that was actually his calling card into Hollywood, which was his Disney effort for with a little 10-minute movie called Vincent.
That's right.
And it seems like it's a callback to Vincent. Am I right?
Yeah, no, you are right.
He made Frankenweenie as a short film too.
He made Frankenweenie as a short, but there's a character in this, the science teacher, who looks a lot like Vincent Price and is voiced by Martin Landau.
Yeah.
Another actor that he likes a lot. But if Vincent Price was alive, I assure you, Vincent Price would have played would have voiced the science teacher.
I felt so I felt so remiss because I've always wanted to talk to Martin Landau, and I didn't realize he was in the movie.
I didn't realize until the credits.
I would have sent him a request because he did press for it. I didn't realize that. It was too late.
No, Yeah, but it's
my favorite moment of Frankenweenie is when the boy's looking out the window and it looks like it's raining outside. It's just like the father with the garden hose.
Yeah.
I think about
like
that
a
scene,
wonderful joke.
and then I think about the scene they spotlight in the documentary Visions of Light, the documentary about cinematography.
Right.
And I think about Robert Blake in Cold Blood, looking out the window,
right.
and the rain against the window looks like tears rolling down his cheeks. The reflection of it.
Conrad Hall.
Yeah. So here's the question that people are asking: 2 flops in a row. What happened to Tim Burton? What, is he in danger? Is he endangering his career? Personally, I'll give you my take on it, and then you guys tell me yours. I think it's a bunch of hooey. This guy with Alice in Wonderland, even though none of us liked it,
right?
It is one of the highest-grossing movies of all time. He propelled the very notion of a modern blockbuster with Batman. I mean, Batman was an event movie. I mean, obviously Spielberg, kind of ushered in Spielberg and Lucas the notion of blockbuster. But Batman was like an event movie, big time. I think he's fairly safe.
I think. I mean,
are you kidding? He's ridiculously safe.
Yeah, I mean, he's not. He's not going to be begging for change.
All he needs to do is center in on another. Look, I mean, Burton, for the most part, for the last 20 years, has been doing movies, and I'm talking about since Batman, has been doing movies that are really based on other properties.
Mm-hmm.
And so all he really needs to do is find the next property that's going to work, and it's going to work because, and it'll work because he's got a machine going. He's got a machine going where he has the cinematographer, he has the score, he has the art directors, he's got all those things working, the costume designers. They're all working together. I mean, he works with the same people every single time. So it's just a matter of something else working in the future, and him finding something else. Now, if you're asking, is he ever going to find a movie that is great as something like Ed Wood or Pee-wee's Big Adventure, then that's another question
entirely.
That's a
totally different story. I mean,
that's a different question.
I mean,
that's a much more difficult thing to answer.
Do you know anyone that likes Alice in Wonderland?
Nobody. 0 people. 0.
And yet, the movie was like a massive international success.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know about that.
I don't know a damn person.
It just happened at the right place at the right time. It came out in spring. There wasn't anything else out there. It came out in 3D. It came out right after Avatar, which might have been its biggest thing. Mm-hmm. It came out directly after Avatar, and everybody thought, well, Avatar has changed movies, and we loved Avatar, and it was in 3D, so we're going to go see this next thing that's in 3D. But we don't hear a lot about people coming out of Alice in Wonderland thinking that it was like Avatar, which was also a piece of shit.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. There's this movie next year that's coming out the same, like in March, Oz the Great and Powerful or whatever.
Yeah.
And even though it's based on the Wizard of Oz or those books, it just looks like a spin-off of Alice in Wonderland, quite frankly. Even though it's a Sam Raimi film and everything, it just looks like, if I didn't know any better, even because it says from the producer of Alice in Wonderland and the director of the Spider-Man trilogy, I'm like, oh my God.
Well, it probably got greenlit because of the success of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that. But I'm looking at Tim Burton's page on IMDb, and I don't see it listed. But at one time, because Alice in Wonderland did so well, he was attached to a new version of Sleeping Beauty, which would be, perfect in that sense for him to make, another $1 billion worldwide. So.
Well, I don't see him making another $1 billion. But that doesn't mean that
he
he's not going to
produced
be...
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter? Oh, my God. God, Abraham Lincoln Vampire and Dark Shadows in the same year? Jesus.
I mean, Alice in Wonderland has been an incredibly influential movie. Not just because I think mainly because, well, of course it made a lot of money. Of course, that's
the main reason.
But it also opened up the idea that you could make something out of ancient, and I'm talking about in these days, it's ancient history. So, for instance, this year there's been 2 Snow White movies. There's been a television show called Once Upon a Time, and there's also been another show called Grimm.
Mm-hmm.
There's been there's a Hansel and Gretel movie that's coming out which portrays Hansel and Gretel as being witch hunters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the kind of thing that they were like, oh, well, this sort of ancient sort of storytelling, ancient in our purview.
Are you basically saying that we're going to get the Hans Christian Andersen serial killer movie?
Yeah, we're gonna get Thumbelina as a killer. Thumbelina is gonna come out and gonna kill like 30 people in the movie.
By the way, who composed the music for the movie Thumbelina? You guys know? Yeah,
No.
Barry Manilow. He did. Yeah, he composed the music. Don Bluth loves Barry Manilow. He composed both of Don Bluth's last movies.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so I don't know anyone that likes Alice in Wonderland, but it grossed a lot of money. There's lots of theories that you can attach to it. A lot of what you just said, Dean. The fact that Disney's above the title, but then again, that didn't help John Carter. But Tim Burton is a very specific talent, you know. And I think that people went to Alice in Wonderland for Alice in Wonderland,
not for
and
Tim Burton.
They probably didn't walk out singing its praises because of Tim Burton.
Mm-hmm.
Like they probably so I think that he's not typically, when he's firing on all cylinders, he's a very selective taste, you know. And I don't think that Joe Schmo in, you know, Pistoria, Illinois, is necessarily Tim Burton's audience.
They're not sharing his taste, I don't think. And I mean, and I think when he comes from a place that's truly from his heart, as I know that Ed Wood and Pee-wee and I suspect,
and Edward Scissorhands too. I mean,
Edward Scissorhands, and even Beetlejuice, and even I'll go so far as to say Big Fish.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I suspect also Frankenweenie.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to that thing that comes directly to his heart, and I'm sure this is an incredible disappointment to him. I believe that people feel like he's a weirdo.
Right.
When they look at those movies,
well,
they're like.
I mean, most of the movies that you just mentioned, the ones that come from his heart, deal with the outsider that feels like a weirdo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what he's. That's why they're personal to him. Yeah.
That's what he does, and he's only approached big time, huge ass grosses when he deals with things that have already connected with the public in one way or another.
Right.
And he just hit the zeitgeist. I mean, he made Batman at the perfect time. He made because I return to Batman now, and my nostalgia for the reaction everyone had to it when it came out, my nostalgia for that period of time kind of outshines the actual quality of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that the movie is beyond all visionary, and it's a great kick to see Jack Nicholson, but it's terribly uneven. It
drags in parts. I mean,
yeah, it does. It's like overblown. It's overblown. It was. Look, I went to go see the movie, and I was taken away mainly by the hype, and I believe that movie has really set the bar for hype.
Mm-hmm.
It really
Oh yeah, you're right about that.
It did the hype so great that it made everybody who went to go see it for weeks after it was released think that it was incredible. When in actuality, when they went back and took a look at it, even a week later, they said, what the hell was I thinking?
Well, you know who liked that movie? Jack Nicholson. He made $50 million from it.
Oh, he cut a good deal for that movie.
He got the greatest deal out of that movie.
And he's very happy with his performance, as he should be. I mean, he's always said, I consider that a piece of pop art, like my performance in that movie.
He's fun in the movie and everything like that. But the problem with the movie is not in his performance. It's in the direction of the movie. It's specifically in the cutting of the film. I think it's the editing of that film that makes it wrong.
Yeah, it's sloppily cut, and it's completely lopsided in terms of it should be called The Joker.
You're right. Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean,
right. Right.
In terms of screen time,
Batman becomes a supporting character in that film.
Yeah.
I'm a supporting character in my own movie. God damn it.
Okay. Let's close off tonight's show. We'll close it with a piece of film score from the new movie Won't Back Down, which stars Viola Davis and Maggie Gyllenhaal.
I think that's come and gone already.
Yeah, but the soundtrack is still here.
Oh, okay, no, that's good. Okay.
And I have a feeling that it's kind of a shame that movie has been sort of forgotten because it has a really good subject matter that's not portrayed in a lot of movies, and I'm very interested to see that movie eventually.
Well, if you missed Lean on Me 2 at the theater, I'm sure it'll be on DVD soon. But the score is composed by Marcello Zarvis. Here's the main title from Won't Back Down. We'll be back Sunday with some more guests and some more movie talk. What comes out this weekend?
Well, Argo and Seven Psychopaths and Sinister, I think. And
I hear Sinister is good, actually.
Sinister is supposed to be really scary from what I hear.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
See you later.
Blog Talk Radio, where millions of hosts and listeners gather.